All right. What is going on, folks? Welcome back to the one and only Wrestling Otaku channel. Of course, your personification of excellence in YouTube and YWC. And I'm back here. It is officially Saturday night, June the 27th of 2026. So I want to go ahead and do this video here. Let's just get this on real quick because I've actually attempted this video several times and it got interrupted due to just lack of storage data on this phone. Not sure what's going on, but it is what it is. So I'm going to try it one more time here. So here tonight, I'm going to give you my official AEW Forbidden Door 2026 predictions video. Of course, the pay-per-view takes place tomorrow night, June the 28th on Sunday. And so as I basically stated in my previous video, I wanted to go ahead and give you my predictions for the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quickly here. So as of right now, there are 11 matches that have been announced for the card for tomorrow. 2 on the pre-show or the 0 hour, and the remaining 9 are going to be on the main card. So I wanted to go ahead and run through this match card, give you my predictions and all that kind of stuff. And again, I'm kind of speeding it up because I have no clue how much video time I have left because, like I said, several times already I've attempted to do this video and the video gets cut short because of lack of storage data or something like that. I try clearing the cache and all that. Let's hope it doesn't do that now. Let's hope it doesn't do it this time because, there was one point I was like 14 minutes in and the video abruptly cut off. So I would rather not do that again. Anyway, so let us go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and give you here my AEW Forbidden Door 2026 predictions. So let's begin with the 0 hour matches. We start off with a TBS Championship Survival of the Fittest qualifying match to determine the 6th and final spot in the Survival of the Fittest match. It's going to be Sky Blue 1-on-1 versus Micah, a Stardom talent who I'm not really familiar with, in all honesty. I'm pretty sure I've never seen her. The name doesn't ring a bell. So Sky Blue versus Micah for the final spot in the vacated TBS title Survival of the Fittest match. As to who wins, I'm going to take Sky Blue here because, again, I'm not really familiar with Micah. Maybe if I get a chance to, I'll go back and see if I can watch or find one of her matches on YouTube or wherever. But for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and take Sky Blue here. And then the other 0 hour match is going to be a tag team match for the AEW Women's Tag Team titles. The champions, Divine Dominion, that being Megan Bayne and Lena Cross, versus the team of Thunder Rosa and Olympia. So a little bit of a cross promotion here. Olympia, of course, from CMLL, teaming up with Thunder Rosa. Of course, they got that international flavor versus the absolutely dominating current AEW Women's World Tag Champions, that being Divine Dominion. So there should be a solid match on the 0 hour. As to who wins, I got to give it to Divine Dominion. I don't see them dropping the titles here on the pre-show. So those are the 0 hour matches, the pre-show matches. So let's move on to the main card here. We start off with a tag match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The champions, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, versus the Dogs, that being David Finlay and Cart Connors. So very intense rivalry kind of building up the last several weeks, ever since Cope and Cage won the titles from FTR. And now, of course, the challengers here, the Dogs, who have laid waste to the champions on more than one occasion the last several weeks, like I said, leading up to this match. So this ought to be a solid match in the tag division for both teams. Looking forward to seeing what happens. As to who wins, I got to give it to Cope and Cage here. I don't think they're dropping the titles after a month. So, yeah, Cope and Cage. Give me Cope and Cage over the Dogs to retain the AEW tag titles. Moving on. So then we get a special 3-way tag team match here, interpromotional. It will be the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson representing AEW, versus El Sky team, that being Mystico and Mascara Dorada, representing CML, versus the team of the Unfounded Co., that being Shingo Takagi and Teton. So, yeah, 3-way tag team match here. So, all 3 participants, I'm not sure how it's going to work and whether all 3 teams are going to be in the ring at the same time or it's going to be standard tag rules or whatever the case may be. I'm sure it's probably the latter. But anyway, so it should be a solid match. It should be a fun match. Again, interpromotional, flavor with this 3-way. I'm not sure if there's anything on the line other than it just being an interpromotional match, but it should be fun. It should be a really fun match here. As to who wins, I'm actually going to take the Unbound Co tag team of Shingo Takagi and Teton. I'm sure conventional wisdom would say the Young Bucks, but the Young Bucks have actually been doing the job as of late, to certain teams. So we'll see what happens. You can make a case for any of the 3 teams in this match. I'm going to take Shingo Takagi and Teton for this one. Moving on. So next up, we get a singles match for the AEW Continental Championship. The champion, Jon Moxley, defends against Bandito. Bandito, of course, along with Brody King, got a tag team victory over the Death Riders, Jon Moxley and Daniel Garcia. And shortly thereafter, Bandito challenged Jon Moxley for the Continental Championship. So thus we have this match. This ought to be a really fun. This ought to be a really good match here. To me, this is top three. To me, top three candidate for match of the night right here. Jon Moxley, Bandito, Continental Championship. They're gonna have a really, really solid outing out there. As to wins, gotta give it to my man Jon Moxley to retain here. With all due respect to Bandito, current Ring of Honor World Champion, I gotta give it to Jon Moxley to retain. Moving on. So next up, we get another singles match for the IWGP Global Championship. The champion, Shota Umino out of New Japan versus the Death Riders Pack, representing AEW. Another really solid match. Another match I think is going to be a top three candidate for match of the night. Shota Umino, of course, the former protege of Jon Moxley, so it's going to be interesting to see him going up against Pac, of course, of the Death Riders, who was fronted by Jon Moxley. So this ought to be a very, very solid match and a very physical one. And yeah, I look forward to, if I get the chance to watch it, I look very, very much look forward to seeing this match, seeing how Shota Umino has progressed now that he's the IWGP Global Champion. As to wins, you can make a case for Pac, but I'm gonna take Shota Umino to retain here. I think Shota Umino's gonna retain it. So Shota Umino to retain the Global Championship, IWGP Global Championship here. Moving on. So next up, we get another interpromotional match. This will be for the AEW Women's World Championship. The champion Tekla defends against Stardom's Starlight Kid. A lot of animosity with this one. Of course, Tekla, formerly of used to be in Stardom before she came over to AEW. She had that big thing where she attacked Stardom's president or whatever, and then she basically literally and figuratively spit on Stardom's logo and all that, and thus getting the reaction from Starlight Kid. Apparently, Starlight Kid, Tekla have history dating back to their time in Stardom. So yeah, Starlight Kid actually owns a victory over Tekla, and Tekla's never defeated her. So that's kind of where this match comes into play. And so yeah, this will be interesting. I'm not really familiar with Starlight Kid outside of the vignettes and the promos and such that we've been seeing on AEW TV to hype up this match. So should be a good one. Tekla, ever since becoming women's champion, she's been a force. She's been tearing it up, I'll say. But yeah, so should be a fine match here in the women's division. Interpromotional match for the AEW Women's World Title. As to who wins, got to give it to Tekla to retain here. So I think you're going to see a lot of champions retaining here. That's kind of why I'm taking a lot of champions to retain. So it is what it is. That usually happens on shows like these. So give me Tekla to retain here over Starlight Kid. Should be a fine showing though. All right, so then we get the first of two of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament finals matches. This one being for the women on the women's side. It's going to be Mercedes Moné one-on-one versus Maya World. Of course, Maya World, who has been upsetting everybody. She upset Athena in the semifinals. To get to this point, she's got this storyline, or she's got this thing where she had suffered the tragic loss of her real-life brother. And so thus she's basically dedicating her time in the Owen Hart Women's tournament to her late brother, so on and so forth. And she's had several upsets already, and so she's looking to upset Mercedes Moné, who of course is last year's tournament winner. So we've been seeing vignettes and promos and back and forth between these two. They were actually in a tag match in the main event of tonight's show. So very much looking forward to seeing what these two do. Obviously Mercedes, one of the best in the world right now, and Maya World, looking to be that Cinderella story in this Owen Hart Foundation tournament on the women's side. So this is going to be a very, very interesting match. I do think both ladies are going to pull out all the stops in this match. I'm sorry. As to who wins, I'm kind of torn. I can see Mercedes winning. Obviously as good as Mercedes has been, it would absolutely be justified for her to win once again. Although a lot of people may kind of groan at that, considering how many titles Mercedes has won, and she won the tournament last year. And then Maya World, a lot of people want to see, people root for the underdog, maybe give Maya World this feel-good moment of pulling the just ultimate upset on Mercedes Moné and winning this tournament and getting a shot at the AEW Women's World Title down the line. So you can make a case for either one. It's going to be a real toss-up. As to who wins, Oh, I'm kind of leaning in the direction of Mercedes. I just get the feeling that Mercedes Monet is going to win here. By hook or by crook, I think she's going to take this thing and win the Owen Hart women's tournament for a second straight year. I just get that feeling. So give me Mercedes over Maya World. But look for Maya World. She could pull an upset. I really believe she could pull an upset. So then we get the men's final match in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Will Ospreay, who was in the finals last year, 1-on-1 versus Swerve Strickland. These two, of course, have had a future, or I should say, have had a previous matchup when Swerve Strickland was the AEW World Champion. Of course, that match was won by Swerve. And Will Ospreay looking to avenge his finals loss from the previous year. And I do think that this is Will Ospreay's time, and I do believe that this should be Will Ospreay's time to kind of rectify all the wrongs and all the shortcomings from previous years. So give me Will Ospreay over Swerve Strickland. I think this is going to be an absolute excellent classic match between these two, just like their last one was a couple of years ago. This is going to be awesome. Like, this is going to be an epic match, man. It is going to be. They're going to tear that place down, man. I can't wait to see Ospreay and Swerve, man. So give me Ospreay over Swerve to win the Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament final. And he will go on to Wembley Stadium in his home country to challenge for the AEW World title. You have to, it's a slam dunk. You can't mess this up, You can't mess that up. All right, moving on. So next up, we have a very interesting singles match, another interpromotional match here. It's Kenny Omega 1-on-1 versus Zack Sabre Jr., man. They have been promoting this thing for a long time, hyping it up for quite some time now. And obviously, Kenny Omega, with his history in New Japan, and then Zack Sabre Jr., of course, former IWGP champion, considered to be one of the best technical wrestlers, if not the best technical wrestler right now. And these two have been going at it the last several weeks, so very much looking forward to seeing what these two do. I'm familiar, obviously, with both of them. I've seen both of their matches in depth, in length, and in their own realms. They are the best of their craft, so very much looking forward to this. As to who wins, another toss-up here. You can make a case for either guy. I got to go with the hometown man, or the home, I guess you could say, promotion man, that being Kenny Omega. I think Kenny Omega is going to find the way to pull a big win out over Zack Sabre Jr. I just get that feeling, Zack Sabre Jr., I think, he's a guy who can who can manage a victory, or, who could pull out a victory over a guy like Kenny Omega. I just get the feeling Kenny Omega's going to pull this one out here. So give me Kenny Omega in this match here. And then finally, we have a 12-man 6-on-6 steel cage match, where obviously the stipulations are pretty set in stone. It's going to be a Team Briscoe, that being Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, Konosuke Takeshita, and Darby Allin, versus Team MJF, that being, of course, MJF himself, Kevin Knight, Kyle Fletcher, Jake Doyle, Kazuchika Okada, and Andrade El Idolo. With the stipulation being that if Mark Briscoe's team wins, Mark Briscoe gets a future AEW World title shot versus MJF. If MJF's team wins, then Mark Briscoe will not get a future shot at the title against MJF. I don't know if they said ever, but yeah, at least as long as MJF's champion. So obviously the stakes are pretty set in stone. They're pretty obvious. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Like the fact that it's a 12-man tag and it's in a steel cage, and I imagine all 12 guys are going to be in the ring at the same time. I don't know if it's going to be like one cage or two cages. Well, I mean, it just said steel cage. So yeah, it's going to be a freaking hectic match. I can imagine everybody's going to all 12 guys. Both teams are going to go at it, and it's going to be gritty. It's going to be bloody, I'm sure. And so we'll see what happens. As to who wins, I got to take Mark Briscoe's team. I just get the feeling that Mark Briscoe's team should pull out a victory, and that'll set up Mark Briscoe finally getting a shot versus MJF, who was essentially denied Mark Briscoe a title shot up to this point. And so, yeah, with that being said, that's pretty much going to do it. Going to wrap it up here. Those are all the matches, all my predictions. And that's going to do it for this. So those are my Forbidden Door 2026 predictions. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to leave a like. Leave a comment. Give me your thoughts on my picks, my predictions. Give a few of your own in the comments, all that kind of stuff. And, yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. I do have to work, unfortunately, so I'm probably going to miss a good portion of it. But I'll hopefully get the chance to go back and watch highlights and all that. Anyway, that's all I got to say for this. Thank you for watching. Thank God this didn't cut off mid-recording. Anyway, that's all I got to say for this. I'll see you guys next time. Till then, hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Wrestling Otaku. See you guys later. I'm out for now. Peace.